So I went on a bit of a search, because when you look at the way people operate in business, say you're trying to help grow salespeople, or you're trying to build leaders, or whatever it is that we're trying to grow, managers, right? Help people be better with time management. People come along and do all the studies and all the things they've got to do, go back to their workplace or to their real life to try and execute, do it, and down, it doesn't happen, right? You get a percentage of people who take things up, but mostly people really struggle to change their behaviour, change their attitudes, change their habits, whatever it might be. I've worked with kids who had ADD, you know, and I'm told they can't. ADD is attention deficit disorder. So if you take that in a literal sense, it means they really struggle to focus. And with that comes all sorts of consequences. And I would ask almost every parent, you know, what can that person focus on? What do they concentrate on for a long period of time? I have never had a parent not be able to give me an answer. Never. They might struggle with school. They say, well, on their skateboard on a weekend, I mean, they can go out there for hours. Or with computer games, my God, they play that thing forever. You know? And I'm like, well, how come they don't have ADD with that? What's that? What's that clue? So what I found, to cut a long story short, was that in every single human being, there's a natural, instinctive way that we're already wired with. We already are designed to do things a certain way. So that's the nature side of the debate. You know, when we say things like, a leopard doesn't change its spots? You know, I've known Joe for a bloody long time, and I can tell you, he's someone who, no matter what, will always, you know, because they're the spots on the leopard, right? And if someone tries to change, don't even waste your time. It ain't going to happen. I just know what he's like. And to that extent, we're ingrained. Now, what I've found is there is both that makes us up. There is this natural instinct that drives you to do things a certain way. And on top of that, there is also the conditioning that tries to fashion us to be a certain shape based on what our parents wanted, what society wants, what our teachers wanted, etc. And the way I often describe it is like this. You have a natural instinct, which is like a mental backbone, the way you're wired. If there was no other force, if you were able to do what comes naturally, and I'll explain what that looks like in a minute, you would travel along this road. So let's call this true north. Whenever you are true to those natural instincts, or what we call your ID, that brings 8 things at the top of like the rewards for being true to yourself, true to these natural instincts. It's the way you get, well, firstly, it's the way that you perform at your peak. If you want to give your very best performance, it will only happen when you are true to these instincts. Whatever that field is. Could be in business, could be sport, could be anything. If you want a sense of fulfillment, so like that deeper sense of not just I'm happy or I enjoy this, but like it's really rewarding for me. Like I would do this if money wasn't, you know, crossing the table. If you want great self-esteem, you want self-confidence, self-worth. You want to be energized by what you do, and you want to have good health, so you're not stressed and, you know, having things suck your energy. All of those things come when you are true to this natural style. The problem is we don't know what that is in somebody. So what happens in life is, over here are your parents. And your parents are trying to raise you to do what they know is right for you, you know, but without knowing what that instinct is for you, because it's unique to every person. Doesn't matter, you know, I've done all sorts of studies on this. You can have mum and dad, you know, wired a certain way. You could be the total opposite to your parents. And you could have siblings who are different yet again. They could be similar to them, it just chips fall where they do. So when people try and pull you out to a different direction for all the right loving reasons, that gap that exists between true for you and the expectations demanded of you causes a tension. It's like this rubber band building up inside that says, oh, yeah, I know they're happy with me, but it's not right for me. Or you have teachers that, you know, will say, this is how I want you to study. So here's an example with my son just doing his HSC. Students, to prepare properly for the HSC, what you should do is chunk all your work up. You've got, you know, 6 weeks to go. So divide it up into 6 equal lots. Get yourselves all organised. Study for it in chunks. And when you get there, you'll be all prepared, everything will be fine, blah, 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 right? So someone like my son, I have the benefit of knowing his ID. If he tried to do that, it would be a recipe for disaster for him. Because when he goes and plans everything out, and he's got so much time to go in his mind, 6 weeks for him is a damn long time, his mind can't even get into it. But when it gets more to the last minute and he's cramming, the juices really start to flow. Hi, Tammy, I just recognised. The juices start to flow. And some of you in this room will relate to this. You really get going when the chips are down and the pressure's on and you feel like, bloody hell, how am I going to get this done? And up go the sleeves, the curtains, off away you go, and somehow everything starts to happen. Then you pull it off, and at the end of it you think, phew, that was lucky. But you know what? You do it every time. It's just that society says, because they're another thing that pulls you off to the side, society says, that's not the right way to do something. But let's move on from study. Let's go buy a house. That's a pretty big investment. It's probably the biggest investment most people make. So if you're going to buy a house, don't buy the first one. That would be silly. Make sure you check it all out. Go and check lots of houses out. Check for months. Make sure you know all the market. Compare, weigh it all up, do all that. And there are some people that when they do all that, it just gets so freaking confusing. Or buying a car. They've got their father's voice in their head saying, don't buy the first one, don't buy the first one. Make sure you go and check them all out. When some people, that is what works for them. That is what's on the centre line. But there are others who, when they go and do all that, they come back after a Saturday or several Saturdays. Someone says, well, you've been to all those different car sales people, what do you think? And they go, I don't know, I'm just more confused now. Or, I still like the red one I saw in the first 5 minutes. Because it doesn't, one way that works for somebody doesn't necessarily work for someone else. And what happens is, we tend to go through life, I'll try and please that person. No, that doesn't feel good. I'll turn around and go, that feels better. Because the closer we get back to home base, the better it feels. But we don't know that's home base, so we stay in that direction. Oh, no, it doesn't feel so good anymore. I better change. Out here, it's better. Oh, no, it's no good. And that's how we live our life. Because we don't know that there is a spine, a mental spine, for how we need to operate. Now, if you look back on your life, and this is another way to find your passions, go back on a journey like this and think, when were the times that I was really happy? Because they'll be the times, and you're like happy, fulfilled, excited, loved doing what I was doing. Don't worry about whether it was the people you're with or just what were all the things. Put all that down. It might have been the people, it might have been the job, it might have been the location. But there will be a number of occasions, a number of times in your life when it was really exciting. And equally, what were the times that were really, unhappy for you? And they'll be out here. And they'll give you clues as to when you were in stride, as the cliche goes, and when you were way out of stride. Where do you think you want to spend your career? Doing a role that takes you out to the sides, or doing a role that has you going up this centre line? What would make sense to you?
Centre line.
It's pretty straightforward, isn't it? So the question becomes, what's that centre line? How do you figure that out? That was the technology that I built almost 20 years ago. I just, frankly, I didn't know any difference. People often say to me, what was your training? Were you a psychologist or whatever? And I'm like, no, I wasn't. I just believed that there was this thing in someone. Because I saw people in business who, no matter how hard they tried, couldn't change those spots. So I, therefore, concluded that there must be something to that.